Alright, what's up everyone? Welcome back to Compound Interesting. This is Emil, and in today's video we're having another look at Square stock and whether it's still a buy after its epic run since the March lows. So we can see from the March lows it's run more than tripled since the March lows. So we're going to run through some points about Square that no one else has really talked about that much in depth. So these are my own thoughts about Square, and Square is one of the companies that I've researched the most. And because of it's one of the companies I researched the most, it's actually my second largest position, full disclosure. So I bought a lot of Square during the March lows recently, and I added, and it grew. So that's partly why it's one of my biggest positions, but also because I really believe in the company. But at these prices, it's kind of definitely a very high valuation. So we're going to run through some points, and finally I'll give you my opinion on whether it's still a buy at these prices. Alright, with all that said, I just quickly ask that you smash the thumbs up button because it really helps get the small channel off the ground. Subscribe if you haven't already, and just want to say that I appreciate all your comments that are really helpful and giving me a lot of motivation to keep going with this channel, even though it's quite small and not going crazy like some channels. So I really appreciate all the kind comments that are telling me, motivating me to keep going, so I really appreciate that. So with all that said, let's get cracking straight away. Alright, so I'm assuming that you know what the company Square is and the Cash App and how Square works. And if you don't, just watch one of my previous videos or watch someone else's video about Square stock. But I don't want to waste anyone's time. So if you don't know what Square is, just research it somewhere else, the basics of what it is. I want to get straight into the points. So what I mostly want to be talking about in today's video isn't so much the Square Up platform. I kind of want to be talking about the main growth driver for the company Square, which is the Cash App. And the Cash App is not making the most revenue now for the company, but the Cash App is growing way faster and will eventually be the main profit and revenue engine for Square, in my opinion, and most people's opinion. So let's get cracking straight with with Cash App. So why is Cash App doing so well recently? So Cash App has done really well in the last few months. Like, number of users has been exploding and revenue has been exploding, and a couple of factors, the coronavirus obviously kind of expedited the growth towards contactless payments and digitalization of everything. So people weren't handing cash to each other, they were just sending through fucking Cash App. So here's a little graph of Cash App's monthly active users growing. Now, they don't release this information every quarter, so if you see at the bottom, it's kind of stagnated quarters. It's not nice, and they don't release the information every quarter, which is pretty annoying. But you get what you get, you know. So yeah, they recently posted their earnings for Q2, and they posted another growth in monthly active users. So I think they like to post this when monthly active users is looking healthy, or the growth in it is looking healthy. And I believe the strong growth in Cash App is because of their amazing marketing. So I want to run through some of the amazing marketing that Cash App has been doing to grow their user base. And obviously Cash App grows so much because of its networking effect. So if I have Cash App, it incentivizes me to get all my friends to get Cash App, even my mom and my grandparents and my donkey or whatever. Everyone needs to have Cash App if I have Cash App, so I can easily send them money, and if they owe me money, I can easily request it from them. So there's obviously that networking effect, which, by the way, is even stronger on Cash App than like a social network like Facebook. The networking effect on Cash App is much stronger. Well, not much stronger, but stronger than the networking effect for Facebook or Instagram, because obviously you want to be able to send money, but not only with just your friends, also with your grandparents and your father and your dad and your son and you get it. But you may not want to be friends, like you may not want to invite your friends you may not want to invite your granny onto Snapchat so you can send her nudes. Definitely the networking effects are stronger for Cash App. But anyway, apart from the networking effects, let's run through the marketing genius that I think Jack Dorsey has. Jack Dorsey has kind of a vantage point when it comes to marketing because he's the CEO of Twitter, so he can see what kind of ads work well. So I think that's a little bit of an advantage, and not only does he get that vantage point, he can also advertise through Twitter very easily. So let's have a look at some of the Twitter campaigns that Cash App has used to explode their growth. So they use the likes of celebrities, TikTok influencers, media influencers. Here they have Travis Scott, the rapper. said, any of my fans want some money, send me your cash tag. And he gave away 100 grand. And I'd say, well, Cash App gave him 100 grand to give away to all his followers. So I think this is absolutely genius. So as you can see, here's the post, and then you can see like some people receiving their money from Travis Scott. Now, if you were a follower of Travis Scott and you were broke, I'm pretty sure this would be a strong incentive to download Cash App, so you could maybe get some of this 100 grand when you see loads of people getting this money. And similarly, they did one with Burger King, got student loans. So Cash App are doing something really, really smart. But here we can see that Burger King got student loans. This was at a time when the whole student loan thing was very much in the media, and there was a lot of controversy about student loans. So Cash App went straight for the jugular with that one and got Burger King to give out money to people with cash tags, making loads of people download the Cash App. And they also on Twitter have the Cash App Fridays, where they give away $10 or something every Friday. I'm from Ireland, so I don't have Cash App. I have the European equivalent, which is Revolut. But I'm just going from what I've researched, and I love Revolut, so that's why I'm very interested in Cash App. Yeah, they're using such clever techniques, and these marketing techniques are aimed at young people. So I think that is so important. They're getting young people onto the Cash App, because younger people have a much longer lifetime value, and people aren't really recognizing that enough, in my opinion. A younger customer might not make as much money for the Cash App right now, but over the course of their lifetime, they will make a lot more money than, say, a 50-year-old joining the Cash App. So just keep that in mind. Cash App is like a bank. Cash App is a new kind of bank. It's a new JP Morgan Chase. Whereas traditional banks are going after 30-year-olds, Cash App is going after 20-year-olds, thereabouts. A bank pays $1,000 on average to get a customer. So to try and get a 20 or 30-year-old customer, a bank will pay $1,000. And as you can see, Cash App is averaging about $10 to acquire a customer with their giveaways and their marketing. So they've been sponsoring major podcasts. Do you see any other bank sponsoring podcasts? Absolutely not. Podcasts are set to take over, as I've talked about a lot in my Spotify videos. But podcasting, TikTok influencers, social media influencers, all those are such good bang for your buck marketing platforms. Like, you don't have to pay a podcaster as much as you have to pay a TV ad. Like, even paying, like, Cash App has been sponsoring the biggest podcast in the world, the Joe Rogan podcast, for like a year or 2 years. I don't know, years anyway, ages. And I'm sure they're getting a really good deal for the amount of new users that are signing on using Joe Rogan's referral codes. So with the Joe Rogan, you get, once you sign up onto the Cash App, you get a free $5, and another $5 is donated to charity. So that's nice. Another couple of things they've sponsored, Hood by Air, which is a new cool streetwear thing. I don't know anything about it really, but yeah, they're really going after the younger audience. And a NASCAR car, they also sponsored NASCAR. So again, they had record signups in March and April for the Cash App. So obviously the more customers that are coming on board, the more money and revenue they can make in the future. So right now, when I join the Cash App, I'm not really making them very much money. I'm only going to make the money when I go and use my cash card at a shop. The Cash App or Square takes a transaction fee. I'm not really at start making that much money for Square, but as I get more and more involved in Cash App, I start seeing, I can buy Bitcoin, I can buy stocks on here, and that's where Cash App can make more and more money out of you, and not in a sneaky way. Like, this is really useful, great stuff for you, like that you can just easily buy stocks and crypto on your phone. So that's the perfect segue into my next topic, which is the Bitcoin revenue and the Bitcoin explosion that has resulted in the huge number of signups and boost in revenue recently. So let me just show you a quick graph. So if you have a look at, this is the revenue segments for Cash App. This is the revenue segments for Square. And as you can see, revenue has been dropping, particularly for like Square's physical stores, obviously, in the last couple of quarters, except for Bitcoin revenue has absolutely skyrocketed, which has sent the total revenue for Square really, really up a high. And that's why after the Q2 earnings, Square got a nice like 13% pump. And let's just dig into that, whether a lot of people are kind of saying, is that really a a fair pump, or is that really like merited, this extra revenue? Because the Bitcoin revenue that Cash App gets isn't profitable, or is barely profitable. They're not making any money off offering Bitcoin on the Cash App. It generates a lot of revenue, but it's not profitable revenue. So just keep that in mind. So a lot of people are just like discounting that as not very useful, and I can really understand that argument. But I would counter these arguments with the fact that more revenue is always good and eventually can be made profitable down the line. But more so than that, the availability of easily buying and storing your Bitcoin or other cryptocurrency on the Cash App is going to onboard new users and make even the present users maybe more likely to use the other services. So say I wanted to buy Bitcoin, I might ask my friend, oh, where do you buy Bitcoin? Oh, I just buy it on the Cash App. And then I'm like, all right, I guess I'll just get the Cash App and start buying Bitcoin that way, instead of the older ways that are kind of a little bit more tricky, where I have to, I don't know if any of you own Bitcoin yourselves, but you have to like put up your passport photo, get verified, and it's a bit of a process. But with Cash App, it's just, you don't need that because you're verified already using your mobile number and your identification. So again, this is great. The offering of Bitcoin is great because it attracts younger users, which again have a much higher lifetime value and might not be making much money for Square right now, but over the long term and in the future will make Square a lot of money. And on top of this, I didn't mention, but the people who are likely to be buying Bitcoin and buying stocks are people who are financially a little bit more savvy potentially, or a little bit more interested in making money, and are therefore more likely to make more money, and therefore more likely to spend more money through the Cash App, and therefore make Square more money. So that was a bit of a tongue twister, but I think you know what I mean. So the more financially savvy people are using Square's platform or Cash App, that's going to generate more revenue for Square in the long term. Another reason they got a boost in the users was because you could get your stimulus check deposited directly into the Cash App, and now you can get your actual paychecks directly deposited into Cash App. So that's really handy. All right, so now I want to talk about the valuation for Square and whether or not it is a buy, hold, or sell. So first I want to compare Square to PayPal. So PayPal have a market cap of 240 billion and they have revenue of 19 billion, and they're growing at about 20% a year. This gives them a price to sales ratio of 12, although PayPal are actually earning money, but nevertheless. And Square has a market cap of 70 billion, revenue of 6 billion, but they're growing much faster, and they have a price to sales ratio. So again, PayPal's price to sales ratio was 12 and Square's price to sales ratio is 13. So pretty much the same price to sales ratio. The difference being Square is growing at a much higher clip, and they both have similar balance sheets. Now the difference obviously is that Square hasn't turned on the earnings yet. They're not making profits yet, really, compared to PayPal. But once they really start to saturate into the US market and into the worldwide market, which they barely touch worldwide, there's so much opportunity there, but they haven't even saturated the American market yet. So there's no point in trying to turn on profits now. They're just looking at extreme growth, which they still are in extreme growth thanks to the Cash App and Square. But in comparison to PayPal, it's definitely a better buy in my opinion if you're a long-term investor and don't really care about a short-term price fluctuation. So yeah, they have an okay balance sheet, 1-to-1 in cash to debt. Their price to sales ratio is at an all-time high, which is not good valuation point. So yeah, definitely Square was a better buy, obviously, over the last few months before it shot up. And yeah, personally I do think the stock price has shot up a little bit fast and is more likely to retract than continue growing, in my opinion. And to add to that, I calculated that for them to catch up with their current sales, so for them to have a price to sales ratio of 1, I always like to do this calculation. So I work out at what current growth rate, how many years it would take them to get to a price to sales ratio of 1. So the current price to sales ratio is 12.4. So how many years would it take them growing at? So I averaged that they would grow at 30% a year, which is, they'll probably grow a little bit faster for the first few years and slow down. So they might grow 50%. They're expected to grow 30% next year, but I think they'll grow a little bit faster than 30% for the first few years and then start to taper down a bit. but it will take them 9 years growing at 30%. So this is just complete back to the napkin calculation, but 9 years growing at 30% a year to get to a price to sales ratio of 1. So their market cap is what, 70 billion, and their revenue is 9 billion. So 30% growth, that's how long it takes, 9 years to get a fair valuation. So it's definitely not a cheap stock, and I don't think this is a kind of stock you want to get into if you're looking to cash out in the next year or next few months. However, if you're like me personally, I did buy a little bit more today. As I said, I don't think it's a good buy if you're looking for a quick buck. However, because of all the tailwinds and all the new customers, young customers that are joining the Cash App platform, I think this is still an excellent long-term buy. And if we do see a correction, which I think there's a good chance we might, but who knows what will happen in the short term. But if we do see a correction because it kind of ran up almost in a straight line, I will definitely be adding more and more and more to my position, which is already pretty large. But I think it's really unlikely that I think it's unlikely that we'll see sub $100 Square stock again. So if it gets down to the 110, 120 level, I'll be buying. That's what I'm going to be doing, and that's not a recommendation. But I think Square is like Jack Dorsey's Tesla, in the way that Elon Musk started a company, SpaceX, and then started Tesla, which is now a much bigger company. And Elon Musk has used the skills and experience he got in SpaceX to really make Tesla such an amazing company. I think Jack Dorsey has done that, learned so much from Twitter, and now I think Square is really his baby. I think he's an excellent CEO, an excellent guy, as well as the Elon Musk, and that's why, by the way, Tesla is my number one position. Full disclosure. Yeah, so that's what I'll be doing in regards to Square stock. If I wasn't involved in Square at all, I probably would buy a small position now, small to medium position now, hoping for a drop in the next couple of months, and I'll be adding to this position for the very long term. I mean 5 years plus in the minimum. And I believe most of the growth is going to come from the Cash App for all the reasons discussed. So I really hope you learned something from this video. Hope you're opening your mind up again to some new ideas for Square. And even though it's run so high and it's such a high valuation, maybe just clearing up some misguided thoughts about Square and the Cash App. And some people were like kind of snarking at the way that all the revenue is coming from Bitcoin. But like, just think about, like, Bitcoin is just starting its next bull run, in my opinion. I think Bitcoin is probably the best investment right now. That's where I'm putting the majority of my own personal money in right now, is into Bitcoin, because I think that has the best risk reward profile at the moment. But on the back of that, Cash App is going to make a lot of money and get a lot of new users on board as the next Bitcoin bull run happens over the next 1 to 2 years. So yeah, that's everything I wanted to say for today's video. I really hope you enjoyed the video. I really hope you learned something, and thank you so much for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video. Cheers. Oh yeah, hit the thumbs up button with me, and subscribe, notifications, all that jazz. Thank you so much. Goodbye.